All right, welcome to our next session. We're going to be talking about critical capabilities for the modern data estate. Again, if you weren't in all the previous sessions, my name is Martin Boyd, VP of Product Marketing here. My co-presenter on this session is Eric Melcher, our Chief Technology Officer. Because what we really want to do today is start showing you some of the things that our software and some of the Microsoft software and how it all works together as part of building a modern data estate. So first of all, let's just talk a little bit about some of the critical capabilities that are involved in a modern data estate. We've mentioned some of them earlier today. But master data management, the ability to develop or create high quality data that is complete, consistent, and trusted, irrespective of source. Sometimes it's one source, more often it's multiple sources, and that's really where the requirement for having master data management comes from. And of course, we're Profisee, we have an MDM solution. That's what we're going to demo today. And then data governance. We believe it's important that MDM and data governance kind of go hand in hand. You can have a whole platform for data governance. We recommend it, particularly if you're doing anything in high scale. But of course, you can get by with spreadsheets and think this and that if that's all you really have. But the point is, you should be able to find to catalog your data, as well as data standards and policies. Collect together data standards and policies so that you know what you're trying to govern, how you're trying to manage the data. And because we're very Microsoft centric, we have built a deep integration with Microsoft Purview. We're going to show you some of that today. And then the third thing is the data platform. What are you going to do with this data when you've developed it? Where are you going to put it? How are you going to deliver value from it? Sometimes you're cleaning up the data and putting it back into the source system, and then the source system is able to, whether it's an ERP or a CRM or whatever, and it's able to just work better. But most often, you're putting it in a place where you can do analytics. And again, you can use a number of different platforms here. Microsoft Fabric's the one we're going to demo today, but some of our previous sessions we were talking about Databricks or Synapse or even things that are not Microsoft like Snowflake or whatsoever. But today we're going to demo Fabric. We have an integration with Fabric, and we have a little bit of a sneak peek at the end on where we're going with that, which ought to be interesting for everybody. So real quick, you can have multiple data sources. Most folks do have multiple data sources. And the data that's from those different data sources is generally inconsistent and incomplete. The data sources we can think of as silos because they were created independent. The data in them was created independent of each other. They probably weren't governed very, very well. There's lots of people typing in different parts of the business. And so the data is generally inconsistent and incomplete, and that should not be a surprise to anyone. That's just what you should expect. But what you need is to be able to pull that data together, put it in one place, and then it could be Fabric, Synapse, Databricks, or Snowflake, as I mentioned. But if that's raw data, meaning bronze in a medallion architecture, the data is still duplicated, inconsistent, incomplete, and generally speaking, not ready for consumption. So let's have Eric show us what that would look like in a Power BI report generated from Fabric.
Here you'll see what is often the case with enterprises that try to develop analytics on top of the raw master data coming from their various applications. In this scenario, you can see that we're looking at the profile of an individual customer, full sport, but we've got obviously a few different examples of that organization within our list. On the right, as we look sort of at a more kind of comprehensive analysis of our sales data, we see here that we have 4 potential duplicate records for full sport supply with various details and various sales transaction amounts. And at the end of the day, if my goal here is to really analyze customer revenue, we run into it's a pretty classic problem in the data management space, which is I have duplicate records within applications. I certainly have duplicate records across applications. The data across those records is inconsistent and misaligned. And therefore, anytime I try to do analytics directly on top of that raw data, I'm unable to really get the insights I'm looking for. All I really find are the underlying issues in my data.
Okay, thanks, Eric. So that's what the data can look like when it's not really in good shape. You just drop it in a big pile and hope for the best. Clearly not really going to be a strategy that works. So what do you do to avoid that? That's where governance and MDM come in as the other two legs of the stool that we talked about earlier. So let's dig into governance first. Governance is there to scan and classify sources and to define the data standards that you want to apply. Think about it as defining the data standards, the policies, the practices, the specific criteria for what constitutes good data. Think about it as writing a rule book. You write a rule book for a soccer game. You send all the players on the field, but if you don't have a referee to enforce those rules, then you're still going to have chaos. So what you need is an enforcer to go along with the governance, and that typically is master data management, where they enforce the data standards, match and merge data across different sources, standardize them across different sources, validate that that's all correct and good. And then where something is just so wrong, it's in conflict, you may need some remediation. And we're going to show you a little bit how to do all of that. First, governance with, in this case, of course, we're demoing Purview. The latest rev of Purview has data products in it. And so we're going to show you how we, Eric is going to show you how we tackle that. And just one more point, this is our fifth iteration, fifth version of integration with Purview. And we'll show you how that works now.
Starting off here, we are inside of Microsoft Purview. And what we're going to do is navigate to the all-new Purview data catalog experience. So this is Purview's solution for all things data governance. And this latest release of the data catalog experience in Purview, which released here in early September, really is aimed at making data governance more accessible to the broader business community. And so what Microsoft Purview does now within the data catalog is it brings some new concepts to the table that allow users to more easily find, discover, and ultimately access the data they need. Purview's introduced a couple different concepts that are new. One of those is the concept of a business domain. So this is an overarching container. These can be aligned by business function. These can be aligned by various categories of data. And this, again, is something that allows us to organize our data estate as well as the underlying data policies within our data estate. So here we have a few different business domains. And within our sales and marketing business domain, we notice we have 3 different data products. Then if we navigate to the data products within the sales and marketing business domain, you can see here that we have a couple different things. We have a campaigns data product of type data set. And we also have a couple data products that are of type master and reference data. You can see them here, products and customer master. And if we click in the customer master data product, this allows us to start really organize the physical assets within our data estate and service the ones that really matter up to the broader business community. So inside of this customer master data product, you can see here that we've described what the usage of this data product is intended for, some of the use cases that it ultimately satisfies. And then down here at the bottom, we can see we've actually been able to associate a few different data assets from different operational applications within our enterprise. So we have a SQL table that contains some account data from Dynamics CRM, another table of customer data, this one being from our JD Edwards system. We also have some Salesforce accounts and some SAP customers. So all this ultimately represents operational data coming from our different enterprise applications with different collections of customer data. If I'm looking to build a customer master, this is a great first step, allowing me to understand what customer data I may have, where does it exist, and ultimately how can I access it.
Okay, thanks, Eric. So that's a little glimpse of only some of the things that Purview does. It does a whole lot of other stuff with security and access and things like that. And we'll show a little bit more of Purview and how we load data back to it in a second. But that's now we've set up some of the rules and guidance, any governance standards and policies we're able to inherit. And now we're going to talk about what MDM does in terms of stewardship, matching and merging, et cetera, et cetera. And Eric's going to show us how we use a concept we call fast apps to build really simple, streamlined and non-technical is really what I should say, applications that allow non-technical data stewards to steward their data. We're going to go through a little bit of matching, data quality, etc. So take it away, Eric.
Okay, so here we are in Profisee, and now we're going to walk through how we can take that raw customer data from our operational applications and unify it together within Profisee, and then make that data available for consumption back within Microsoft Fabric, as well as register this new data asset back with Microsoft Purview. Here I am inside of the Profisee application, and in this case, we were actually managing a number of different master data domains within Profisee. Profisee is a multi-domain MDM platform, and so it's pretty common for customers to manage product data or reference data or location data, etc. In this demo, we're going to be focusing on our B2B customer data that we're managing and unifying inside of Profisee. And so as we go into this fast app, we can see here an experience that's actually been curated for us around this data. So all the pages in this fast app have been designed around the needs of our data stewards within the business, and it's really aimed at making it easy for me to come in here and find the data and do whatever is necessary for me to manage this data and make it ready to consume. Up here in the top, we can actually search for our full sports supply records, and here we can see the same 4 records that we saw inside of Power BI. If we open up the match group for one of these records, we can see how Profisee has been able to identify that these 4 source records across Salesforce, SAP, and Dynamics all ultimately represent the same real-world customer out there as a business. We can see the details of how individual records are matched. We can drill into the match scores. We can see the scoring that occurred on these individual records. And we can actually manage this group. If we wanted to, we could split this group apart. We could merge groups together. So there's full capabilities here for managing how individual records are grouped together and ultimately create a golden record. On the left here, we can see our golden record. This record represents the best available data about full sports. We can see here that while we have a few different addresses for full sports as a business that has multiple different locations, they ultimately should be represented by this individual address inside of Illinois. We can standardize our phone number, their region, etc. And so with this, we now have not only the fact that these 4 records that came from our 4 different applications all belong together, but also able to capture the best available information across them and populate those on the golden records. Now, it could be that we're looking at this record and saying, hey, you know what? While the address line 1 matches up, these really represent different businesses. Perhaps this one in Dallas and San Mateo really should be split up. And we have the ability to manage all this within Profisee. We could go in here to our split combine mode. We could go in here and say, you know what, this one in Dallas and San Mateo, I want to break those out into a separate group. They really don't belong together. And so we really have full control and transparency over which records are matched together, which groups they belong in, and the ability to then manage these groups on an ongoing basis. We also have the ability to identify records that are candidate matches, what we call proposed matches. In this case, we look at this Burton Security. Here we can see this record matched with a score of 84. And that's a scenario where we actually have configured the system to allow someone to come in and say, hey, this is a proposed match. Can someone please look at this and see whether or not this match looks appropriate? We can again drill into the details of the score. We can go look at the visualizer to understand how this individual group was formed. And in this case, we have a fairly big group. We have a dozen or so source records, and we can see which records are the central actor within the group, how everybody ultimately matched together. This could help inform us on whether or not we wanted to bump various records out of this group, form new groups, etc. So that's just one capability of data management platform, which is the ability to identify like records, form groups out of them, generate golden records, and populate those golden records. But master data management platforms have a number of different capabilities that assist with that process of taking the raw data from my operational applications, improving it, and making it better for consumption within an analytics scenario, as well as take that improved data and push it back into my operational applications. So we can see an example here of a data quality rule. We've got a pretty simple data quality rule that flags a record that when state equals GA, the region must equal Southeast. I mentioned that Profisee is a multi-domain master data management platform. And so I'd like to take a moment here to pivot and show a demo of how it can also be used to manage product data. In this scenario, we can quickly filter our records visually down to our mountain bikes category. And one key capability of Profisee is the ability to manage the relationships in your data. So it's not just about, in this case, the product itself, but it's also which countries is it sold in, or who's the manufacturer that makes that bicycle. In this case, what other bicycles are made by that manufacturer. The ability for us to actually navigate around the relationships in our data to really provide a three-dimensional experience for master data management. But this is more than just a browsing experience. This is also a data management experience. And here's an example where we have a bike manufactured by Felt Bikes, but we know that Felt Bikes is fundamentally manufactured in the United States. And so what we can actually do is we can remove this relationship, and we can correct that association, and assign this record to the United States. Lastly, I have the ability to actually edit the details of this individual product. I can open up that record, I can make changes, edit them, save them, etc. So that's the relationship management experience, which is not just the ability to browse the relationships in your data, but also the ability to edit your data as a part of that experience. Another common use case within master data management is the ability to manage hierarchical rollups of our data. It's common for different parts of the business to want to be able to roll up data different ways. And sometimes it could be marketing wanting to roll up one way for how they want to analyze their sales by product, whereas finance might want to roll up the data a different way. With Profisee, it's easy to be able to define these hierarchical rollups of your data. We can have different hierarchical rollups based off the requirements of different parts of the business. And Profisee provides a very simple experience that allows us to visually manage and maintain our hierarchical data within a web-based experience. Now, circling back to the original place where we started with our customer data, remember that we've created this golden customer data set here within the Profisee platform. And now that we've curated this data, we've taken those 4 data sets we identified within Purview, we've brought those under Profisee, we've unified them. Now, how does this circle back to Purview? With Profisee, we're actually able to associate any given data set to that same data product that we saw back within Purview. So remember within Purview, we saw that customer master data product. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and associate this individual entity with that data product inside of Purview. And now that we've associated this Profisee entity with a data product back in Purview, we can see all the details coming back from Purview. We can see all of our schema information. We can see the individual data product that this individual entity is associated with. And we can even go in here and type in a description for this data product. And now that that's complete, as we navigate back to Microsoft Purview and refresh our customer master data product, we can see here now that we have a 5th data asset inside of this data product, and that's our Profisee entity. You can see here that it is complete with Profisee branding, and we have the option to actually navigate from the Purview user experience natively into Profisee. And this actually cuts both ways. So I can navigate from Purview into Profisee. Here I can see my underlying customer B2B data set that we've curated and unified here in Profisee. If I open up my Purview details for the customer B2B entity, I also have the option to navigate from Profisee into Purview. So we now have a bidirectional integration where metadata flows between Profisee and Purview both directions, and users can navigate between Profisee and Purview in both directions as well.
Okay, thank you again, Eric. So there was a lot to digest in there. We saw fast apps, we saw customer data, we saw product data, and we saw it primarily from the business user or data stewardship perspective, and we saw the integration with Purview. So let's assume we've now taken that corrected data and we've updated it in Fabric, and we want to view it again through Power BI and see what the impact has been. Eric.
Now, as we navigate back to our homepage and we open up our report, leveraging that data, we can fast forward, and this is what we can get when we've grabbed raw data and unified it together using Profisee, and we build back out our report leveraging that unified data. So now if we go look at our list of customers, you'll see here now that we only have one full sports supply record. Look at their sales over time. This now reflects this individual customer across their various locations. And up here on the right, when we look at our analytics across all of our customers from the top down, we can see that we're actually able to see our golden record, full sports supply. I can see the various source records underneath it. And I can see how the sales across all of my various permutations of full sports supply ultimately rolls up to my common golden record. I can see what my actually total relationship is with that customer.
All right, super. Eric, thank you so much. So we've covered off master data management and data governance and how it interacts with the data platform, and so some of the impact that that you will see through the data platform and through your reporting environment when the data is correct. So we've only, of course, in a session like this, been able to show kind of a narrow path through. If there's other things, other capabilities, other domains that you might be interested in, reach out to us, and we can probably set you up with something more that you might get information from. So there's one one more thing, as Steve Jobs liked to say at the end of his presentations, is that we are working now to be part of the Microsoft Fabric Workload Development Kit. This was something that was announced back in May by Satya in his keynote at Build, and it is basically the capability for, you've seen this kind of graphic showing Fabric before, it is the capability for vendors like ourselves to embed ourselves as a seamless part of Microsoft Fabric. So that means in our particular case that we would store, read and write data natively in OneLake, that our UI is kind of rewritten. We put a new skin on it so that it looks like Fabric, so that when you're someone working in Fabric, you don't necessarily know when you're accessing Profisee and MDM versus not. We have a private preview of this that's just about to start. If you're interested, if you're a Profisee customer and you're interested in finding out more about that, you can find it on our website. But for now, we'll wrap this session by having Eric show us a little bit about what that would look like.
What we'd like to do is wrap up here with a demo of something that we're very excited about that's currently under development. And if we go over here to our Microsoft Fabric homepage, you'll see here this new Profisee Master Data Management tile within the homepage of Microsoft Fabric. What this represents is a native Profisee workload inside of Microsoft Fabric that allows users to leverage all the power and capability of the Profisee platform natively inside the Microsoft Fabric experience. So here I am in the Profisee workload for Microsoft Fabric. And here you can see we have the option to create a new master data product. So you may recall that Purview introduced this concept of a data product, and one of the types of data products from Purview is a master or reference data product. And of course, with Profisee, we're always dealing with master data products. And what we're doing here is we're actually bringing that concept of a master data product and tying it through to both Profisee as well as our Fabric experience and using it in the same way. We're using it to create a container within which we can manage a like set of artifacts or a related set of artifacts. And then what we can do then is use this as a pointer ultimately back to Purview, so that as I do this work with Profisee, whether I'm doing it natively inside of Profisee or within Microsoft Fabric, we can always tie that work back to the ultimate master data product as it's defined within Microsoft Purview. So what we're going to do here is going to go ahead and create a new master data product. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in the URL of my Profisee environment. What we have here is actually a native experience within Microsoft Fabric for working with data under management inside of Profisee. So if you remember where we began by creating our customer B2B entity and put it in unifying our data from Microsoft Purview. Now that we've got that data under management inside of Profisee, we can actually access that same data within Profisee directly within Microsoft Fabric. And here we can see all the same underlying data that we saw in our previous experience. And then here we can open up records, we can edit them, we can change values. All facets of stewardship are available here within the native Fabric experience. So you can think of this as, instead of having to, if you see a data quality issue where you need to manage the results of matching, instead of having to go from the Fabric experience, exit out over to Profisee, make the fix, and then come back to Fabric and refresh it. What we're actually allowing you to do is have that exact same set of data stewardship capabilities natively available here within the Fabric experience, so that if a user who's working with some data, maybe consuming some data through Power BI, they detect an issue with a particular record within their Power BI report, and if that's a record that's under management within Profisee, they can go open up the corresponding master data product. They can make the changes to the record, and they can save those changes and have that reflected back in their Power BI report. And so this experience has a number of different capabilities. We're going to be building out the ability to define and manage data quality rules, to define and manage matching strategies, as well as to define and manage integration strategy, which is what allows you to import data from various places from one lake into the Profisee platform. So in this case, we're saying I want to load data into the customer B2B entity. We'll be able to browse the one lake and find some data we want to load. We can specify, in this case, which direction we want data to flow, and then configure those mappings. And then last but not least, we're going to be bringing the full capabilities of matching stewardship to the fore as well. And so if you click here, you can start to see, again, this is under development, but you can see the user experience we'll have inside of Fabric for working with sets of grouped records and their corresponding golden record, which again, you can see this looks and feels very much like the native Profisee experience. We're all delivering this natively inside of Microsoft Fabric.
Again, thank you so much, Eric, for being able to demo all of those bits of software all working seamlessly together, and for giving us a sneak peek into that the future of our integration as a native Fabric workload. And if I didn't mention it before, Profisee is the only MDM vendor that was invited by Microsoft to be part of that preview program. So something we're very much looking forward to in due course. So that's the end of this session. Thank you for your time and attention. I hope you found it valuable. And next up in a minute will be Alexa with another Data Hero Spotlight.